What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a new D&D storytelling video. Sorry, my hair is being weird. It's like I just need a shower. Anyhow, as you guys last remember from the last episode, the group made their way to, or just escaped the abyss, to travel back to their world, the material plane known as the Tav. We're stuck in a limbo-light state of all the elemental planes and portals opening up, causing this whole, just the whole lands to just cause it to chaos. So they ran into the castle to discover the Raven Queen and Yennefer in like a little dispute. As they tried to stop Yennefer, they were brought into a different rift, a different time-space. And they ended up in a different plane of existence where it looked similar to our world, with big tall buildings made of metal and roads, but instead of cars, there were just carriages, horses decaying in this new area. And also it seemed that the nature here had evolved incredibly. There was nature everywhere, like it was an abandoned city. They started to look around, walking around down the road, when Blair discovered, or felt something below the ground as they stopped at this road, seeing just this green, large patch of land in front of them, splitting the road. As they kind of looked at it, the ground began to move and eventually standing up, being an adult forest dragon. The dragon stood up and looked at it, and as they tried to talk to it, it seemed to not care. It was just full of hostile intent. As they were backing away, a bunch of forest creatures known as forest walkers began to step out of the trees and began to make a wall, blocking them from leaving. Raven and Blair noticed, as Raven was backed up against these trees trying to get out, they noticed a group of individuals in like ragged clothing and these very vibrant swords sneaking up to attack, or looking to attack this whichever group. The group broke into a battle with this forest dragon as it shot a huge load of needles into the group. It wasn't too hard to defeat this forest dragon, especially with Oberon being a fire maniac, and Forest is, well, his best friend. Also, two meteor swarms, Raven with his 9th level spell causing the final blow of a meteor slamming down on the dragon's head and once more caving his head into the road. The trees that were making the fort were destroyed during the fight with the forest dragon. As they turned around, this figure looked at Raven, just wearing a cowl and just one eye showing through, as he took his headpiece off. I showed to be a familiar individual with white hair, gray eyes, about 6 feet tall, being as Anaris from Stormwind. He looked really surprised to see them and just quickly told them to head inside their little base that they had here. He took them inside and they were asking all kinds of questions. Anaris explained that it's been 600 years since they left to go defeat the Void Dragon. They figured since they did not return that they perished. And back at Stormwind, eventually the portal shut down, and the world was in peace for a while until they discovered Yennefer had a secret lab and was experimenting with certain things that she should not be experimenting with, and she ended up leaving and disappearing. Eventually, multiple Peller's lights were created. However, they were not as she thought. Multiple Peller's lights caused the nature to grow rapidly and actually caused them to come to life, as you saw with the forest dragons and forest creatures. The group... Sorry, that's the bathroom right next to my room. But the Peller's lights causing all kinds of nature to be brought alive, it was also corrupted with the void. And the void, when Peller's lights travel throughout the different planes of existence, every 2 weeks or 1 day and every 2 weeks, the comets would turn to a void color, and they would spread the void disease. The void disease is an airborne disease that everybody comes in contact with the moment they start breathing, and it has multiple stages. The stage 1 is the reproductive cycle. When you come in contact with this disease, your reproductive cycle shuts down. It gets almost eaten up. And Anaris explained that there are no more humans in this realm. There are no more dragonborns. And I think... can't remember what else. But all the races that didn't live too long, the only reason Anaris is like being a human is because he's a dragon knight. He mixes his blood with dragons, and he lives as long as an ancient dragon. But all the races that don't live longer than like 700 years, such as elves, died out because they couldn't reproduce. And then the other stages are once you have it, if you start getting more hurt, the disease will rapidly spread more. It will double your age, triple it, and every so often it would keep on taking your age away until you eventually be fully corrupted by the void and turn into a voidling. Anaris was at it showed Anaris with a bandage with the black and purple ooze coming out. He was infected quite bad, as well as I believe Venola, who was also here, as well as, sorry, there's a bug that flew in front of my screen. Venola was still here, and so was Nyla, as well as a group of other individuals. They explained that they have not been able to find Yennefer. She has been gone for like 590 years. She's been gone, or when peace was in Xatav for 10 years, after they left and so they thought perished. So they rested, seeing the first void night, because today was the day of the void, where the sky turned like a dark blue and purple, and meteors rained havoc from the sky, slamming into different parts of the lands. As long as you're not out in the void, as long as you have a protective barrier around you, you would not harbor the disease even more than you already have. Yeah. I have to sneeze, so if I sneeze during the next 2 seconds or so. There it is. Inhale. They woke up the next day after sleeping in these tree beds, where they just wanted to find Yennefer to stop all this from happening. They went downstairs to see Venola kind of contacting a group of scouts and sending them off. And she told them she can't really help them. If you can, though, if you want to go get supplies, rather, from being the medic bay, or the medic building uptown, or the Crystal Caverns, where they get their armor and swords from. However, it's protected by a crystal dragon. Or head to the desert to get water from the cactuses. And they decided to head to the medic bay instead to contact. Sorry, my throat is just being weird. To see if they can see anything, just head uptown, and medics probably seemed like the best. As they were approaching, though, they caught a glimpse of about 3 individuals heading inside the medic building. Blair quietly looked in the window and saw these 3 creatures who looked to be just covered in a dark purple ooze, like the one seeping out of Anaris's and Vanilla's arm and leg. They tried to interrogate him. Blair jumping inside and scaring them. They ran out the back building as they began to take off. Blair throwing her dagger in front of them, appearing right in front of them, trying to stop. They quickly, in a jump scare kind of moment, just threw their weapons straight into her chest. She was hit twice, and she contacted the Void Disease twice more, so she's at stage 3. So her age is being tripled. And then they continued to run off. She did manage to tackle one of them, though. However, as she demanded to ask it questions, it began to bite off its lip and then its tongue before exploding his head. Renzo then quickly darting off towards the other 2, Oberon following. Blair and Raven made their way back to the little fortress that they have back at with Anaris and Vanola and Nyla. After about 10 hours or 8 hours, 4 hours? 4 hours. Yeah, 4 hours first. They eventually made their way into this sewer. And as they were coming through, Oberon noticed that as they stepped through this certain part of the sewer, it felt like they were in they stepped through a different plane or a different dimension. As it continued 4 more hours down in these sewers, and then 2 more hours to what seems to be this big void-colored castle, as well as the ground is a lot more dark and not as nature as it used to be back where they originally came in this dimension. They noticed 2 big giants watching this castle, and as these scouts or voidlings approached the guards, they gave them a little symbol before heading inside. Oberon and Vrenzor then quickly, remembering how they got here, began to head back, another 10-hour journey back to the building where they saw Anaris and them at. Blair was taken care of by Vanola, as Vrenzor and Oberon broke in, telling them exactly all that happened, and they were quite excited. Blair then deciding to bring out the alcohol she had from when they first left, I think, to the Abyss, and everyone was like really shocked to see it, because well, in this new ward state, they don't really get such luxurious things, and this entire building kind of had like a big drunk night. So woke up the next morning, a huge army was prepared, about 200 people. And they stood in front of Ranzor and Oberon, telling them, "You lead the way, and we'll follow." And as they, as Ranzor and Oberon led the way, they stopped behind a building to decide what to do. After Anaris deciding, you know what, screw this, why don't we just go in, beat the hell out of them, and just start inside. They asked him, do you want me, Nyla, and Vanola to stay outside to fight the giants? Or the 197 soldiers to fight the giants, and we'll head inside with you guys. The side of 197 soldiers would be nice, since Anaris, Vanola, and Nyla have more history with Yennefer and probably want to kill her a lot worse. So the soldiers began to charge, screaming as they began to attack these giants, as Anaris, Vanola, Nyla, Blair, Oberon, Raven, I think Ranzor, I feel like I forgot someone, charged past the Giants after the Giants tried to slam them as they took off on this 200 long drawbridge. Blair, Ranzor getting the spell Fly casted on by Raven as Ranzor picked up Vanola and Raven, as Nyla could fly herself, and Blair flying herself as well. Anaris, being able to run 60 feet, could keep up with him and just decided to run along the bridge instead for adrenaline junkie purposes. However, as the Giants slammed at them as they ran past, he started to destroy the bridge. And as the bridge was getting destroyed, the Void Ooze ravine began to rise. Anaris quickly sped up and ran inside the gateway, disappearing out of view as he just stepped through a certain part and just disappeared. Ranzor was next, and Blair barely making it inside herself. The four of them, being Blair, Oberon, Raven, and Ranzor, appeared in this prison-like room where they were just kind of sitting in this dark black-purple ooze. Cells on each side, and they saw two figures in front of them, being these clockwork giants, so to speak, who had big cannons in one of their arms and a big anchor in the other. They look like, if you ever see League of Legends, they look like Nautilus, pretty much. The group broke into a fight with them, a lot of them receiving some big cannonballs in their chest and face, but they did manage to kill them. However, Vanola, Nyla, and Anaris were nowhere to be found. After looking around in the room, they did see a red Draconian sitting in one of these cells. As they looked at him, Ranzor especially seeing this, seeing Darren, Ranzor's son. Except Darren seemed to be a lot bulkier, especially bigger than Ranzor himself, and Ranzor is quite big himself. Darren seemed to have taken a different path. He was a barbarian. As they freed him, Darren just had so much rage in him, he just wanted to kill Yennefer, because upon creating the Void, Utaga, being Ranzor's lover and Darren's mom, contacted the Void disease and died from it. The group began to head up as the ooze and the ground began to rise up. And they ran up some stairs. Darren leading the way, they were led to a familiar room that resembled the room far back when they fought the Beholder. A circular platform with two bridges on opposite sides with a big drop, and instead of lava this time it was that ooze. They saw this medium-sized humanoid figure who was all green, had like this green dress and various like roots, tentacles coming out of her various bodies, and Anaris yelled at them to go ahead and just pass us. This is Solemn, the Lady of Death, the leader of this whole nature this nature environment. So they began to pass by. As they were approaching the bridge, they saw a figure, being Vanola, get knocked off the platform and down into the ooze. Her scream echoed throughout the hallway as she hit the ooze, and no sound came anymore. As they crossed the bridge and the door closed behind them, they heard a loud scream of a human that sounded familiar to Anaris, as the sound kind of echoed until it stopped. And then all they heard was just the lady, the Lady of Solemn, kind of laughing as this nature began to seep through the doors. They got the glimpse that no one has survived that fight. As of right now, they're the last three people, or the last four people, to be alive in this world. So they made their way up the stairs, once more leading into a big door As they open it, they see a big red carpet leading forward with pillars on the sides, where they seen two figures, one being a familiar black outfitted woman, and the other being a figure who is wearing a full plate mail suit, who they did recognize, with some with brownish reddish hair, more of a light brownish hair. Turn around, being the black dressed woman was Yennefer, and the figure beside her seemed to be Alistair, Blair's lover, as he seemed to be fully corrupted by the void, his skin a dark purple, his eyes glistening with a bright purple light. Alistair's words were short as he looked at Blair and said, "I missed you so much," before Darren ran up to Yennefer and just began shouting at her, saying, "You don't know what you did, or how bad you hurt me. Do you know how it feels to lose so much?" And just other things, as he looked at her, looked at Alistair, and he said, let's see how you feel to lose something really important to you," as he grabbed Alistair's neck and squeezed it. He took his axe, bringing it to Alistair's neck, as Blair yelled out, "Stop," as Ransorr grabbed her shoulder, as Darren sliced off Alistair's head as it dropped to the ground. His body falling afterwards, Yennefer let out a scream as she began casting a spell, and that was where we stopped for that part. So, yeah, it's the next session should be the end of it, depending how the group is, of course. This session, they burned like 2 hours just talking instead of goofing off, but I don't care. It's whatever. Hopefully we can finish it though, because me, Andy, or Rayron, and then our friend Walker or Ransorr going with Oberon Brian to a Krav Maga kind of thing. So it might be cut short. I think that might be Tuesday. I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, that's the end for this episode. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next episode, where it should be the last. And we will see what Andy has in stock for us. Bye-bye.